We're constantly told the cost of living crisis is all about inflation or broken supply chains or geopolitics. But what if those are just the symptoms? What if the real disease is a fundamental flaw in our economic system? A kind of institutionalized cheating that's been hiding in plain sight for centuries. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on this economic sleight of hand. Seriously, this is a question we should never, ever have to ask. We expect these professions, people we trust with our health and our kids' education, to provide a secure life. Yet today, so many of them are on the financial brink. In the UK, for example, surveys show nearly half of junior doctors are struggling to afford rent and heating. This isn't just about having a tough month. It's a symptom of a total decoupling of professional work from financial security. And that points to a catastrophic, systemic failure.
And look, this isn't just a feeling people have. It's a cold, hard, mathematical reality. In a city like London, essential workers can watch nearly half of their entire salary just vanish into the black hole of rent. That's before they've even bought groceries or paid a bill. This isn't a personal budgeting problem. It is a systemic bleed-out engineered by the housing market.
So yeah, while inflation and global events absolutely make the headlines, they aren't the root cause. They're just pouring gasoline on a fire that was already raging. The real issue is a deep flaw in the very financial architecture of our society, one that systematically siphons wealth from the bottom to the top. And today, we're going to put that defect right under the microscope.
To really understand this defect, we have to uncover a concept that classical economists knew all about, but that we've kind of forgotten: economic rent. This is the hidden value that holds the key to the entire mystery. So, what if the value we all create as a community is being systematically siphoned off by just a select few?
Okay, think of it like this. After business pays its workers their wages and pays for its equipment and capital through profits, there's still a pool of value left over. That's economic rent. It's the value that doesn't come from one person's effort, but from all of us, from the nearby train station, the good schools, the safe streets that make a location desirable. It's value we all create, together.
The famous economist Alfred Marshall put it perfectly. He called it the annual public value of the land. He saw it for exactly what it was: a public asset. So you see, this isn't some radical new idea. It's a foundational principle of economics that we've somehow managed to lose sight of.
And this slide just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you've got earned income, wages from your labor, profits from your investments. You actually created that value. But on the other side is economic rent, which is captured just by holding a title deed to a piece of land. It's wealth you get without actually creating any new wealth.
So, how in the world did we get to a point where this racket, as our source material calls it, just became the norm? Well, the answer lies in a long, deliberate historical process that basically institutionalized a culture of cheating.
For centuries, land and the value it held were largely seen as common resources supporting entire communities. But then, starting with the enclosure movements, this communal resource was systematically privatized. This wasn't just a simple change in property law. It was a fundamental reordering of society that kicked people off their land and created a new class of landless workers. Fast forward to today, and in our global era, this system has been supercharged, rewarding the extraction of value far more than the creation of it. The source material for this explainer calls it exactly what it is: an epic racket sanctioned by law. This is the original structural defect. That moment, society decided to let a value we all create be treated as a private lottery win for a lucky few.
But this racket doesn't just quietly siphon off wealth in the background. Oh no, it's a ticking time bomb right at the heart of our economy, and it's what fuels the destructive boom and bust cycles that have become so painfully familiar. And the engine of this whole machine: land speculation.
And the cycle is just dangerously predictable. First, real economic growth happens, and that makes land more valuable. This attracts speculators, who start a bidding frenzy, driving prices into the stratosphere. Pretty soon, the cost of land and rent gets so high that it literally strangles actual businesses. Why would you invest in a new factory or new jobs when you can make more money just by sitting on a piece of land? Eventually, the real productive economy stalls, the bubble bursts, and the whole system comes crashing down. This is where the money goes. Instead of funding new technologies, R&D, and better jobs, capital gets diverted into this high-stakes game of monopoly played only by the wealthy. And that, in a nutshell, is why your wages seem to stagnate while the price of everything essential just skyrockets. The money that should be funding your future is instead funding a game that produces absolutely nothing of value.
But hold on,
It gets even wilder. Speculation isn't the only mechanism at play here. The tax system itself has been twisted to reinforce this flaw, creating what our source material calls the Great Tax Clawback.
Here's how it works. Your tax money, taken from your paycheck, builds a new train line. Great! But this public project makes the surrounding area way more desirable, and the value of that land skyrockets. So who gets all that new value? Not the community that paid for it. Nope. It's captured as a private, unearned windfall profit by the local landowners. In effect, your income taxes are being used to inflate the asset values of the wealthy.
So here's the crucial takeaway. Because governments fail to collect the value that the public creates, that economic rent, they're forced to levy taxes on the very things that drive the economy, your work and your spending. This is the hidden redistribution engine, covertly shifting wealth from people who work for a living to people who simply own things.
So what's the alternative? Is there a way out? Well, this isn't about overthrowing the whole system, but about correcting that original structural defect. It's about adopting a new, yet actually very old perspective, that the rent is the revenue. There is a better way. And guess who one of the biggest proponents of this idea was? None other than Adam Smith, the father of modern economics. He argued that it was perfectly reasonable to fund the state with the value that the state itself helps to create. So the very person who's often quoted to justify the current system was actually one of its sharpest critics.
The philosopher John Locke totally agreed. He argued you can try to tax wages or businesses, but those costs ultimately just reduce what people can afford to pay for a location. The burden always terminates on the landholder. So why not, Locke asks, just collect it directly and avoid damaging the productive economy in the first place? The logic is just crystal clear. And all of this leaves us with one final, transformative question. What if we stop taxing work and creativity and enterprise, and instead funded our public services with the value that we all create together? It's a question that, if we really dare to answer it, could unlock a more just, a more stable, and a more prosperous future for every single one of us. And that is a thought worth holding on to.